One of the things that I think we've lost in our conversation across the aisle, such as it is any sense of nuance. We are really in a place where we are painting everything with a very broad brush, in or out, black or white, stop or go, and we're not allowing for the variations. Let me say that in a less confusing way. Sometimes more than one thing can be true. I'll give you an example. There are peaceful protesters. There are also looters and rioters and people who are wreaking havoc. Both things are true. So if a right winger says, "Look at this video, look at these rioters. This is what the left is doing," and someone on my side says, "Here's a peaceful protest. This is what we're doing," I think, frankly, both things are happening. I think that the same could be said of the right. There are some very, very violent, vicious. We've seen right wingers slug people in the face and spit at people and try to intimidate people and just awful things. And I know that there are also peaceful people on the right who just want to stand up for their rights and express themselves as Americans. Both things are true. And I think we have to start to allow for that if we're going to get to any kind of sensible discussion about all this. Here's another example. I have not ceased to be terribly heartbroken about the children who were taken from their parents at the border. It is wrong. It's inhumane. It's inconceivable. It's un-American. It's un-Christian. It's un-Jewish. It's un-Muslim. It violates every sense of decency. And sometimes when I've talked about that on social media, someone on the right will say, "Well, Obama deported plenty of people." Don't you see? Both of those things might be true. It might be true that Obama deported plenty of people, and also that Trump initiated the policy of taking children away from their parents. Both things may be true. I will say, I think it's much more important to discuss the thing that is affecting people currently. The problem is when we just go back and forth and, well, how about this? Well, how about this? Well, the victims get ignored. The issues get ignored because we're so busy trying to discuss who's worse. It's not a great tactic. I wrote down some things. Because we counter each other with, yeah, well, how about this? How about this? We do it all the time. Somebody will say, Eric Trump is corrupt. He apparently stole from a children's charity. Terrible. And somebody will say, well, what about Hunter Biden? It may be that they are both corrupt. It may be that they're both corrupt. We don't have to stand up for the person on our side of the aisle. It is absolutely true that Donald Trump violated the Emoluments Clause by profiting from the office of president. I don't think that's arguable. But the counter argument that I get is, well, what about Hillary and her speaking fees? I'm like, yep, that's also a thing. That's also astronomical. I can't quite justify that at all. Maybe both things are true. Maybe both things need to be looked at. I believe we can find common ground on one thing. I'd like to think we can, and that is this. On this issue, that all crime should be investigated. All wrongdoing should be investigated. Nobody should get away with violating the law, or even wrongdoing or indecency. No one, and especially our elected leaders. We should keep an eye on them, and it shouldn't matter what side of the aisle they're on. We have to let go of our attachment to the folks who are on our side. If they're jerks, if they're wrong, if they're evildoers, or people who are violating our laws, our decency, our Constitution, all those things. I think we could really make a commitment to that, don't you? I don't want bad people in office. And so if there's something going on, I say investigate all of them, kick them to the curb, get them out of there. That would be great. I would be like the most legalistic government person if that was my job. And regardless of the political party of the accused, Otherwise, again, as I say, we have this back and forth. And again, we're doing it on social media, which has no effect because it's like citizen against citizen saying, well, you're wrong, you're wrong. And neither of us is in a position to affect any of this, affect whether there's an investigation. I talked about that a couple of videos ago. Nothing gets done as we're trying to decide who's worse. I will say also that sometimes only one thing is true. Sometimes only one thing is true. Right now, we have a rift. Either the election is over or it's not. I tell you that, in all traditional senses, it is over. It has been declared. It has been announced. It has been counted by the people who do this. It can't both be and not be. It is either true or not that Trump slept with a porn star and paid her off for her sons. It's either true or it's not. Maybe you believe it's not, but we can't have both. There's some things that aren't really open to negotiation. There's not always nuance. There's not always nuance. There are things that are either true or not true. So we should always look for that. We should always look for the truth. And I think that what would be valuable, if you're really committed to learning what's true, and I'm not going to be the one to tell you, because what do I know, right? I have my beliefs, I have my observations, I have things I've seen with my own eyes, heard with my own ears. That's what's true, as far as I'm concerned. But if we really want to be committed to that, one of the tools that will help us on both sides, I swear, is recognizing nuance. Recognizing that sometimes we're not really disagreeing. We're both presenting true things, and using them to batter each other, as opposed to saying, I think you're right and I'm right. But I'm going to add on to this too, because we have to be ready to condemn. Again, please know, I'm not coming down as an expert on this, but this postal worker who initially claimed that he was told to backdate ballots and then recanted, and now has taken back that recantation. And I've listened to a recording that is allegedly of some government officials trying to intimidate him out of his story. And I'm going to say, if that's true, that's wrong. Don't care who benefits, left, right. That's wrong. We have to condemn it outright. I am absolutely, I can't support the violent leftist groups that are out there marching. And I can't support the Proud Boys, and I can't support the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists or anybody, because it's just not how we do. I just don't think that's we have laws against that. It's just not what we do. So let's continue to bust folks on our own side. I think we'll get further that way. Clean up our own side of the street, as they say. But also allow for the fact that your opponent might be saying something true as well. You might both be right. All right, I've repeated myself several times, so that means it's time to say goodbye. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.